The rain fell in heavy sheets, its relentless rhythm drumming on the cracked pavement. The streets were eerily empty, save for the faint hum of a passing car and the flicker of a failing streetlight. Beneath a flimsy piece of cardboard leaned against a storefront, a young girl huddled, her arms wrapped tightly around her knees. Her clothes, soaked through, clung to her small frame. She shivered, though not just from the cold. It was the kind of chill that seeped into her bones, a cruel reminder of how far she had fallen. Maya didn't belong here, not on these streets, not in this state of hopelessness. A year ago, she had dreams as vast as the night sky above her. She wanted to be an inventor, to create something that would change the world. But dreams felt like a cruel joke now, taunting her with their unattainable brilliance. Her hands trembled as she opened her most prized possession, a battered notebook. The pages were wrinkled, some stained with rain, others smudged with ink from her hurried sketches. This wasn't just a notebook to Maya. It was her sanctuary, her escape from the reality of her situation. She flipped to a page she had been working on for weeks. It was a sketch of a small portable device, a solar-powered phone charger. The idea had come to her during one of her long nights under the stars. Her phone dead, her connection to the world severed. What if there was a way to harness the sun, to create something accessible for people like her who had no stable source of electricity? But who would take a homeless teenager seriously? A clap of thunder startled her, jolting her from her thoughts. She quickly closed the notebook and held it close to her chest, as if it could shield her from the storm raging both outside and within her. She glanced at the faint glow of a diner across the street. The smell of coffee and warmth drifted toward her, taunting her empty stomach. The downfall. Just a year ago, Maya's life was unrecognizable from this moment. She had been a high school senior, excelling in her science classes and earning accolades for her innovative projects. Her teachers often said she was destined for greatness. Her father, a truck driver, worked tirelessly to ensure Maya had everything she needed to pursue her dreams. But life has a cruel way of appending even the best-laid plans. Her father fell ill suddenly, a persistent cough developing into something far more sinister. Medical bills piled up, and the meager savings they had scraped together over the years were drained. Maya's father, her rock and her biggest supporter, passed away just months after his diagnosis. With his death, everything unraveled. Their landlord, unsympathetic and relentless, served them an eviction notice. Maya and her stepmother were forced to leave their small apartment, each carrying nothing more than a suitcase of belongings and a heart full of despair. Her stepmother, unable to cope with the mounting pressure, abandoned Maya not long after. She left one morning with promises to return and never came back. At just 17, Maya was alone, homeless, and without a single lifeline. Life on the streets. The streets were a harsh teacher. Maya learned quickly which alleys were safest to sleep in, how to avoid confrontations with people who saw her as nothing more than a target. Hunger became a constant companion, gnawing at her insides like an unrelenting parasite. Still, she held onto her notebook like a lifeline. While others sought out food or shelter, Maya scoured libraries and free Wi-Fi spots, devouring information about solar energy and sustainable technology. She filled page after page with sketches and notes, clinging to the belief that one day someone might see her potential. But hope is a fragile thing, and Maya's was dwindling. That rainy night felt like the culmination of all her failures. The world had forgotten her, and she wondered if maybe she should forget herself too. The stranger. The sound of a car pulling up nearby broke through Maya's spiraling thoughts. She looked up cautiously, her grip tightening on her notebook. A sleek black sedan came to a stop across the street. The driver stepped out, unfurling an umbrella as the rain continued its assault. He wasn't like the others Maya had seen on these streets, people who avoided eye contact, who walked faster when they saw her. This man's gaze was steady, curious. He approached the diner but stopped abruptly, his eyes locking onto Maya. For a moment, neither of them moved. Maya's instincts told her to retreat, to disappear into the shadows. But something about the man's expression, an odd mix of concern and intrigue, kept her rooted to the spot. He crossed the street, his polished shoes splashing in the puddles. When he reached her, he knelt down, leveling his gaze with hers. "Are you okay?" he asked gently, his voice cutting through the rain like a beacon. Maya hesitated. Words felt foreign to her after days of isolation. She nodded slowly, though the truth was written all over her. The torn clothes, the hollow cheeks, the haunted eyes. The man noticed the notebook clutched tightly in her arms. "What's that?" he asked, nodding toward it. Maya stiffened, her grip tightening. "It's nothing," she muttered. "Doesn't look like nothing," he said with a small smile. "May I see it?" Maya hesitated. Her sketches were deeply personal, a reflection of her dreams and her pain. But something about this man's demeanor, his genuine interest, made her feel safe, if only for a moment. Slowly, she handed him the notebook, her fingers trembling. The man flipped through the pages, his expression shifting from curiosity to astonishment. He stopped at the solar charger design, running his fingers over the rough sketches. This is brilliant," he said, looking up at Maya. Her eyes widened. She had heard praise before, from teachers and peers, but it felt different coming from this stranger in the middle of a storm. "Do you know what you have here?" he asked. Maya shrugged, her voice barely above a whisper. "Just an idea." The man closed the notebook carefully and handed it back to her. "It's more than an idea. It's a solution. And the world needs more people like you, people with solutions." The first step. The man introduced himself as David, a local entrepreneur who had built his fortune on tech startups. He wasn't the kind of person Maya expected to meet on a rainy night in the middle of nowhere, but perhaps that was the point. David didn't offer her a miracle or a handout. Instead, he extended an opportunity. "I have a workshop," he said. "It's not much, but it's dry, and it has tools. If you're serious about this," he gestured to the notebook, "I can help you bring it to life." Maya's heart raced. She wanted to say yes, to grab onto this chance with both hands. But doubt gnawed at her. Was this real? Could she trust him? David seemed to sense her hesitation. "You don't have to decide now," he said, standing. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card. "If you change your mind, call me." With that, he walked away, disappearing into the diner. Maya sat there, the card in one hand and her notebook in the other, as the rain continued to fall. For the first time in months, a spark of hope flickered in her chest. Ending part 1 on a cliffhanger. The camera focuses on Maya's face as she stares at the card, her expression a mix of fear and determination. Slowly, she tucks the card into her notebook and looks up at the sky. The rain begins to lighten, and a single ray of moonlight breaks through the clouds. Narrator. Little did she know, this moment wasn't just a turning point. It was the beginning of a journey that would change not just her life, but the world itself. The morning after the rainstorm, Maya awoke to the muffled sounds of the city stirring to life. Cars honked in the distance, and the aroma of freshly baked bread wafted through the air, reminding her of a time when mornings weren't defined by hunger. She clutched her notebook close, feeling the dampness from the previous night still lingering on its cover. Her fingers brushed against something inside, a business card. She pulled it out and stared at it. David Harrington, innovator, mentor. Below his name was a number and an address for a tech workshop on the other side of town. Maya's thoughts raced. Was this real? Could she trust him? What if it was all a cruel trick? But a quieter, more hopeful voice whispered, "What if it's not?" As the sun began to peek through the clouds, Maya made a decision. For too long, she had been surviving day by day, allowing fear to dictate her actions. Today, she would take a chance. The journey. The address on the card was miles away, far beyond the parts of the city Maya knew. She tucked her notebook into her jacket and began walking. Each step was both a challenge and a triumph. Her worn-out shoes barely held together, and the blisters on her feet screamed in protest. Yet, she pressed on. Along the way, she passed people who barely noticed her existence. Business people rushing to meetings, parents walking their children to school, teenagers laughing as they shared headphones. She felt invisible, a shadow in a world of light. But she also saw reminders of what she was walking toward. The glow of digital billboards advertising the latest tech gadgets, storefronts showcasing innovative devices. Maya's sketches weren't just dreams. They were potential solutions to problems the world hadn't even realized it had yet. The workshop. By the time Maya arrived at the address, her legs felt like they might give out beneath her. The building was unassuming. A converted warehouse with tall glass windows and a sleek logo that read Harrington Tech Hub. She hesitated at the door, her reflection staring back at her. She looked every bit the homeless teenager she was. Tired, disheveled, and out of place. Would anyone here take her seriously? Before she could second-guess herself, the door swung open. David stood there, a cup of coffee in hand. His face lit up when he saw her. "Maya," he said as if greeting an old friend. "You made it." Her voice faltered. I wasn't sure if I should come." David stepped aside, gesturing for her to enter. "The hardest step is the first one. Come on, let me show you something." A world of possibility. Inside, the workshop was unlike anything Maya had ever seen. The space buzzed with energy. Engineers tinkered with prototypes, 3D printers hummed as they brought designs to life, and holographic screens displayed complex schematics. David led her to a corner of the workshop where a cluttered desk awaited. "This," he said with a grin, "is your spot." Maya stared at him, stunned. "My spot?" "Your spot," he repeated. "I meant what I said last night. You've got something special, Maya. That sketch in your notebook. It's not just an idea. It's a solution, and I'm here to help you turn it into reality." He handed her a small toolbox and a stack of blank paper. "You don't have to figure it all out today," he said. "Start small. Start here." The learning curve. The days that followed were some of the hardest Maya had ever experienced. Turning her sketches into a working prototype wasn't as simple as drawing lines on paper. There were calculations to make, materials to source, and endless adjustments to be done. At first, Maya felt overwhelmed. She struggled to navigate the advanced tools and often doubted whether she belonged in the workshop. Her first attempts at building the solar charger were failures. Wires crossed, circuits fried, and the device wouldn't even turn on. One evening, frustrated and on the verge of tears, Maya slammed her notebook shut. "I can't do this," she muttered, burying her face in her hands. David appeared at her side, his voice calm and steady. "Failure isn't the opposite of success, Maya. It's part of the process." She looked up at him, her eyes filled with doubt. "What if I'm not good enough?" He smiled. "You don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep going. Every mistake teaches you something. And trust me, you've got what it takes." Breakthrough. David's words stayed with her. The next morning, Maya approached her work with renewed determination. She analyzed her previous failures, adjusted her designs, and tried again. Slowly but surely, the pieces began to come together. The solar charger started to take shape, a compact, lightweight device with foldable panels and a built-in battery. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. The first time Maya connected a phone to the charger and watched the battery icon light up, she felt a surge of pride she hadn't experienced in months. She had done it. David clapped his hands together, grinning from ear to ear. "I knew you could do it," he said. The pitch. With the prototype complete, David helped Maya prepare for her next big challenge, pitching her idea to investors. "You have to believe in yourself, Maya," he said as they worked late into the night, refining her presentation. "These people aren't just investing in your product. They're investing in you. Show them why this matters." Maya practiced tirelessly, rehearsing her pitch in front of mirrors, in empty rooms, and even in her sleep. She knew this was her chance to prove that she was more than a homeless girl with a notebook. She was a visionary with a solution the world needed. Facing the room. The day of the pitch arrived, and Maya found herself standing in a sleek conference room, her prototype displayed on a table before a panel of investors. Her hand shook as she gripped her note cards, but she forced herself to breathe deeply. The room was silent as she began. "My name is Maya, and this is my vision." She spoke about the nights she had spent on the streets, the challenges she had faced, and the inspiration behind her solar charger. She described how it could provide power to those without reliable access to electricity, families in rural areas, disaster victims, and people like her who had nowhere else to turn. When she finished, the room erupted in applause. The investors asked questions, not just about the product, but about her story. They saw her passion, her resilience, and her unwavering belief in her idea. By the end of the meeting, several investors had pledged their support. Maya walked out of the conference room with tears streaming down her face, a mixture of relief, pride, and disbelief. A step forward. Back at the workshop, David greeted her with open arms. "I heard the news," he said, his smile as wide as the horizon. "Congratulations, Maya. You did it." She nodded, still processing everything. "I couldn't have done it without you," she said. David shook his head. "I gave you the tools, but you did the work. Remember that." As the sun set over the city, Maya stood outside the workshop, her prototype in hand. For the first time in months, she felt a sense of purpose. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was building something, not just for herself but for the world. Maya stood in the center of her small but vibrant workspace, staring at her prototype. The solar-powered charger had come a long way since the scribbled sketches in her battered notebook. What had once been a vague idea born out of desperation now had the potential to change lives. But as she gazed at her creation, a mixture of pride and fear filled her chest. Success, she realized, was as terrifying as failure. Her partnership with David had opened doors she never thought possible. Investors were interested, the prototype had garnered attention, and the media was starting to take note. But with opportunity came pressure, expectations that Maya felt were towering over her. What if her charger wasn't enough? What if she wasn't enough? Scaling up. A new challenge. David called a team meeting to discuss the next steps. The once empty workshop was now bustling with activity, with a small group of engineers and designers working on refining Maya's charger. David, ever the optimist, outlined their plan. "We have the funding to scale production," he announced, his voice brimming with excitement. "Maya, you'll lead the team as we finalize the design and begin manufacturing." Maya froze. "Lead the team." David nodded. "This is your vision. Who better to guide it than you?" Her mind raced. Leading a team. Working with professionals who had years of experience, while she barely knew the technical jargon. She looked around at the expectant faces, all waiting for her response. "I'll do my best," she said, her voice steady despite the storm of doubt within her. Building the team. The first few weeks were rough. Maya had to learn not only how to refine her prototype, but also how to communicate with her team effectively. Her initial attempts at giving instructions were met with confusion. She often found herself second-guessing her decisions, afraid of making mistakes. One afternoon, as she stood over a workbench, reviewing the latest iteration of the charger, one of the engineers, a middle-aged man named Carl, approached her. "You're doing fine, you know," he said, his tone reassuring. Maya looked up, surprised. "Am I? Half the time, I feel like I'm just fumbling through this." Carl chuckled. "That's how all great leaders start. No one has all the answers, Maya. What matters is that you care, and trust me, we can all see that." His words gave her the confidence to keep going. Gradually, Maya found her footing as a leader. She began holding daily meetings, asking for input from her team, and openly sharing her vision for the charger. The first orders. Word of Maya's invention began to spread beyond the confines of the workshop. A local nonprofit organization that provided aid to disaster-stricken areas reached out, expressing interest in purchasing the chargers for their relief efforts. When the first order came in -500 units, Maya felt a surge of excitement and panic. "We've got this," David assured her. "This is what we've been working toward." The team dove into production, working long hours to meet the deadline. Maya spent every waking moment in the workshop, soldering circuits, testing prototypes, and ensuring each unit met the highest standards. A bump in the road. Halfway through production, disaster struck. During a routine test, one of the chargers overheated and short-circuited. Maya's heart sank as she inspected the damage. David called an emergency meeting. "We need to figure out what went wrong, and fast," he said. The team worked tirelessly to identify the issue. Maya stayed up for 48 hours straight, poring over every detail of the design. The problem turned out to be a flaw in one of the components they had sourced. "This is going to delay production," Carl said, his tone grim. "We can't afford delays," another team member added. Maya felt the weight of their words, but she refused to let fear take over. "We'll fix this," she said firmly. "We'll find a better supplier, rework the design, and meet the deadline. We have to." Her determination inspired the team, and together, they found a solution. Though the delay cost them valuable time, they managed to complete the order with just hours to spare. The launch. The day the chargers were delivered to the nonprofit, Maya was invited to attend their distribution event. Standing in a rural community that had recently been devastated by a hurricane, she watched as families received the chargers. One young boy, no older than 10, approached her with wide eyes. "Is this really going to help us?" he asked, holding the charger in his small hands. Maya knelt down to his level, her voice soft but confident. "It will. And if anything goes wrong, you tell them to call me, okay?" The boy smiled, clutching the charger like it was a treasure. That moment stayed with Maya. Seeing the direct impact of her work reignited her passion. She wasn't just creating a product, she was changing lives. The media frenzy. News of the charger's success spread quickly. Journalists began reaching out, eager to learn more about the young inventor behind the breakthrough technology. Maya's story, a homeless teenager turned innovator, captured hearts and headlines alike. She was invited to speak at conferences and featured in articles with titles like "From the Streets to Silicon Valley: The Maya Thomas Story." Though the attention was overwhelming, Maya used it as an opportunity to advocate for the causes she cared about. She spoke about the challenges faced by homeless youth, the importance of renewable energy, and the need for innovation to be accessible to all. Dealing with doubt. With success came critics. Some accused Maya of being a one-hit wonder, questioning whether she had the skills to sustain her company in the competitive tech industry. Others dismissed her as a charity case propped up by David's influence. The negativity stung, but Maya refused to let it define her. "They don't know my story," she told David one evening. "They don't know how hard I've worked to get here." David nodded. "And you don't need to prove yourself to them. Your work speaks for itself." Maya poured her energy into improving the charger and developing new products. She knew that the best way to silence her critics was to keep innovating. The turning point. As orders continued to pour in, Maya's company began to grow. She hired more staff, expanded the workshop, and invested in research and development. One day, a representative from an international organization reached out, expressing interest in partnering with Maya to distribute chargers to underserved communities worldwide. The opportunity was a game changer, but it came with a daunting challenge: scaling production to meet global demand. Maya faced a choice. She could play it safe, sticking to small-scale production, or she could take a leap of faith and expand her operations. "You've already taken so many leaps," David reminded her. "What's one more?" Maya decided to go for it. Maya's office hummed with activity. What had once been a small, cluttered corner in David's workshop had grown into a buzzing hub of innovation. Engineers, designers, and marketing specialists filled the room, each focused on taking her solar charger to the global stage. The excitement was palpable, but beneath it lay the weight of immense pressure. The email confirming the international partnership was the breakthrough Maya had been working toward, but the path ahead wasn't without its challenges. Scaling production to meet global demand was no small feat. It required more than just resources. It demanded leadership, vision, and unshakable determination. A new kind of challenge. The day after the partnership announcement, Maya sat in a conference room with David and her newly expanded leadership team. Blueprints, budget sheets, and production schedules were spread out across the table. David began the meeting with a sense of optimism. This is a monumental step forward, but it's also going to test us in ways we haven't been tested before. Maya nodded, her mind racing. She had spent countless nights dreaming of this moment. But now that it was here, the enormity of the task felt overwhelming. One of the project managers, a sharp-eyed woman named Clara, spoke up. The biggest hurdle will be securing a reliable supply chain. We're talking about producing tens of thousands of units per month, shipping them globally, and ensuring quality remains consistent. It's a logistical nightmare if we're not prepared. Maya listened carefully, her notebook open in front of her. We'll need to identify suppliers who share our commitment to sustainability, she said. This product isn't just about convenience, it's about creating solutions that don't harm the planet. The team agreed, but as the meeting continued, the list of challenges grew longer. Factory setup, workforce training, international shipping regulations, and potential competition from larger companies. The competition. Just days after the partnership was announced, news broke that a major tech corporation was releasing its own solar-powered charger. Unlike Maya's grassroots company, this corporation had deep pockets, established infrastructure, and a global presence. Maya's phone buzzed constantly with notifications, journalists asking for comments, supporters encouraging her to keep fighting, and critics doubting whether she could compete with the tech giant. In a rare moment of vulnerability, Maya vented to David. They have everything. Money, resources, a massive team. How am I supposed to go up against that? David leaned back in his chair, his expression thoughtful. They may have resources, but you have something they don't. Heart. This company isn't just about selling a product. It's about solving real problems and changing lives. That's what will set you apart. His words reignited her resolve. She knew that competing with a giant wouldn't be easy, but she was determined to stay true to her mission. Building the dream. As production ramped up, Maya threw herself into every aspect of the process. She traveled to factories, met with suppliers, and worked alongside her team to ensure every unit met her exacting standards. One day, during a visit to a new production facility, she noticed workers struggling with outdated equipment. The machines were slow and prone to errors, causing delays in the assembly line. Maya pulled the plant manager aside. What would it take to upgrade these machines? She asked. He hesitated. It's doable, but expensive. It would take a significant investment up front. Maya didn't blink. Do it. We can't afford to compromise on quality or efficiency. Though the decision strained the company's budget, it paid off in the long run. The upgraded equipment not only improved production speed, but also boosted morale among the workers, who felt valued and supported. The backlash. Not everyone was thrilled about Maya's rapid rise. Competitors and critics began spreading rumors, accusing her of cutting corners or exaggerating the impact of her product. Online forums buzzed with debates about whether her chargers were truly as revolutionary as she claimed. One particularly scathing article accused Maya of using her past as a homeless teenager as a sob story to manipulate public opinion. When Maya read the piece, her hands shook with anger. Why would they say that? She asked David, her voice filled with frustration. David placed a hand on her shoulder. People fear what they don't understand, Maya, and they envy success that feels undeserved. Let your work speak for itself. Instead of lashing out, Maya channeled her energy into action. She doubled down on transparency. inviting journalists and industry experts to tour her facilities and see the work firsthand. She hosted live demonstrations of her chargers in action, proving their effectiveness to even the most skeptical audiences. An unexpected ally. Amid the chaos, an unexpected figure stepped forward to support Maya's mission. The CEO of a prominent renewable energy company reached out, offering to collaborate on future projects. The CEO, a soft-spoken man named Raj, explained his motivation during their first meeting. "Your story reminds me of why I started my own company," he said. "Innovation isn't just about profits, it's about making the world better. I believe in what you're doing, and I want to help." The partnership brought new opportunities for Maya's company, including access to advanced research and development resources. Together, they began working on the next generation of solar chargers, incorporating cutting-edge technology to make them even more efficient and affordable. The personal cost. As Maya's professional life soared, her personal life began to show cracks. The long hours and constant pressure left little time for anything else. She missed birthdays, skipped meals, and barely slept. One evening, as she worked late in her office, her phone buzzed with a text from an old high school friend. "Hey, haven't heard from you in forever. Let's catch up soon." Maya stared at the message, guilt gnawing at her. She had lost touch with so many people, consumed by her mission to succeed. David noticed her exhaustion and pulled her aside. "Maya, you're running yourself into the ground. You need to take a step back before you burn out." She shook her head. "I can't slow down, David. There's too much at stake." "There will always be something at stake," he said gently. "But you can't pour from an empty cup. Take a day. Recharge. The work will still be here when you get back." Reluctantly, Maya agreed. She spent the next day walking through the city, visiting old haunts, and reconnecting with the parts of herself she had neglected. By the end of the day, she felt a renewed sense of clarity and purpose, a heartfelt victory. Months later, the first shipment of chargers arrived in a remote village in sub-Saharan Africa. Maya traveled with the team to oversee the distribution. The villagers gathered in excitement as Maya demonstrated how to use the chargers. One elder, a woman with kind eyes and weathered hands, approached her. "This will change everything for us," the elder said, her voice trembling with gratitude. "Thank you for not forgetting people like us." Tears welled up in Maya's eyes. "It's people like you who remind me why I started this journey." As she watched children using the chargers to power small lamps for studying at night, she felt an overwhelming sense of pride. This was more than a product. It was hope, light, and possibility. Maya sat alone in her corner office, the city lights shimmering through the glass walls around her. The view was breathtaking, skyscrapers lit up against the night sky. But Maya barely noticed. On her desk lay a pile of contracts, product designs, and a photo of her younger self clutching the very notebook that had started it all. She rubbed her temples. Exhaustion etched across her face. The pressure of running a global company was unlike anything she had imagined. Success, she realized, wasn't just a reward. It was a relentless demand. The rivals' strike. In the weeks following the launch of Maya's international distribution network, her competition intensified. The major tech corporation that had earlier released a competing solar charger now launched a smear campaign against her company. Their ads implied that her chargers were unreliable, accusing her of prioritizing profits over quality. The backlash was swift. Social media exploded with debates, and Maya's inbox flooded with messages, some from supporters, others from detractors. David called an emergency meeting. "We need to respond," he said, his tone urgent. "If we don't address this head-on, it could damage our reputation permanently." Maya nodded but remained silent for a moment. Finally, she spoke. "We're not going to play their game," she said firmly. "We'll let our actions speak for themselves. Double down on transparency. Publish our testing data, share customer testimonials, and invite reporters to see our production process firsthand. Let's show the world who we really are." Her team got to work, and within days, the tide began to turn. Articles praising Maya's integrity and dedication to quality started to surface, and the accusations lost their sting. Internal struggles. While the public battle raged on, Maya faced another, more personal challenge within her company. As her team expanded, disagreements over priorities and strategy grew louder. Some executives pushed for cutting costs by using cheaper materials, arguing it would maximize profits. Maya slammed her hand on the table during one heated meeting. "We didn't build this company to take shortcuts," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "Our mission has always been to create solutions that last and to help those in need. If we compromise on that, we lose everything we stand for." The room fell silent. Though some executives still grumbled, they ultimately deferred to Maya's vision. The betrayal. Not everyone on her team shared her values, however. One of her top engineers, a man named Alan, had secretly been in talks with the rival corporation. Unbeknownst to Maya, he had shared confidential designs and manufacturing techniques in exchange for a lucrative offer. The betrayal came to light when a journalist investigating corporate espionage exposed the leak. Maya was blindsided. Alan had been one of her earliest hires, someone she had trusted implicitly. In a private meeting, Alan tried to justify his actions. "I did it for my family," he said. "They offered me security, something you can't guarantee here." Maya's voice was cold but steady. "You didn't just betray me. You betrayed everything we've built. I trusted you, and so did the people whose lives we're trying to change." She fired Alan immediately and implemented stricter security measures within the company. But the betrayal left a scar, a painful reminder that not everyone shared her vision. The breaking point. The constant challenges began to take a toll on Maya's health. She worked long hours, skipped meals, and rarely slept. One afternoon, during a meeting with investors, she felt a sharp pain in her chest. The room spun, and she collapsed. When she woke up in the hospital, David was sitting by her bedside, his expression a mix of concern and frustration. "Maya, this has to stop," he said. "You can't carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. You've built something incredible, but you're no good to anyone if you burn out." Maya sighed, tears welling up in her eyes. I don't want to let anyone down." David leaned forward, his voice gentle. "You've already done more than anyone could have imagined. But you're not alone in this. Let your team carry some of the load. Trust them." A turning point. After her hospitalization, Maya made changes. She delegated more responsibilities to her leadership team and began focusing on the aspects of the business she was most passionate about: innovation and outreach. She also started taking better care of herself, carving out time for rest and reconnecting with the people she cared about. Slowly, she found a better balance, regaining the energy and clarity she had lost. The breakthrough. Months later, Maya's company unveiled a new version of the solar charger, a sleeker, more efficient model that could power multiple devices simultaneously. The launch was a massive success, drawing praise from both consumers and industry experts. The rival corporation, unable to keep up with Maya's relentless innovation, quietly withdrew its competing product from the market. But the true victory came when Maya's chargers were distributed in a war-torn region where electricity had been cut off for months. The devices brought light to schools, clinics, and homes, transforming the lives of thousands. One evening, Maya received a video message from a young girl in the region. "Thank you, Ms. Maya," the girl said, her face illuminated by the glow of a lamp powered by the charger. "Because of you, I can study at night and dream of being a doctor one day." The message brought Maya to tears. This, she realized, was the true measure of success, not profits or accolades, but the lives she was helping to change. Looking ahead, as her company continued to grow, Maya never lost sight of her mission. She established a foundation dedicated to supporting young inventors, particularly those from underprivileged backgrounds. She also began mentoring other entrepreneurs, sharing the lessons she had learned on her journey. During a speech at a global innovation summit, Maya reflected on her story. "A year ago, I was sitting on a street corner with nothing but a notebook and a dream," she said. "Today, I stand before you not because of luck, but because of resilience, kindness, and the belief that even the smallest ideas can change the world." The audience erupted in applause, a standing ovation for the young woman who had defied the odds. Maya's company, now named Radiance Innovations, had grown into a global powerhouse. What began as a single prototype built in the corner of a workshop had blossomed into a movement, a beacon of hope for those without power, both literal and metaphorical. Despite the accolades, the success, and the recognition, Maya never forgot where she started. Her office was adorned with reminders of her journey. The original notebook that held her earliest sketches, a photo of the team who helped her bring her dream to life, and a simple plaque engraved with the words, "One idea can change the world." A new mission. One morning, as Maya sat reviewing proposals for the next phase of Radiance Innovations, an idea struck her. Her solar chargers had transformed lives. But what if she could do more? What if her company could empower others to create their own solutions? She called a meeting with her leadership team. "I want to create a program," she began, her voice steady but filled with excitement. "A way to mentor young inventors and entrepreneurs, especially those who come from difficult circumstances like I did." David, sitting across from her, leaned forward. "You're talking about building a network of innovators." Maya nodded. "Exactly. We'll provide funding, resources, and mentorship. These young minds are full of ideas, but they don't have the means to bring them to life. We can change that." The team was on board immediately, and the Radiance Fellowship Program was born. Finding the Dreamers. The fellowship program launched with an announcement that spread across social media, news outlets, and community organizations. Applicants poured in from every corner of the world. Teenagers sketching designs in the margins of their school notebooks, single mothers dreaming of better futures for their children, and aspiring inventors working out of garages. Maya personally reviewed hundreds of applications, each one a testament to human resilience and ingenuity. One stood out in particular, a 16-year-old girl from a rural village in India named Priya. Her submission included detailed blueprints for a low-cost water purification system powered by solar energy. "This reminds me of my own notebook," Maya said to David, holding up Priya's sketches. She selected Priya as one of the first fellows, eager to help her turn her vision into reality. Mentorship and growth. Priya arrived at Radiance Innovations headquarters a month later, wide-eyed and brimming with excitement. Maya greeted her personally, giving her a tour of the facilities. "I can't believe I'm really here," Priya said, her voice trembling with emotion. "I never thought anyone would take my ideas seriously." Maya smiled. "I know how that feels. But trust me, your ideas matter. And we're here to help you bring them to life." Over the following months, Maya worked closely with Priya, guiding her through the process of prototyping, testing, and refining her water purification system. Priya's determination and creativity reminded Maya of herself at that age, and their bond grew quickly. The mentorship program wasn't without its challenges. Many of the fellows faced setbacks, from technical failures to self-doubt. Maya encouraged them to embrace these obstacles as part of the process. "Failure isn't the end," she told them during a workshop session. "It's just a stepping stone on the path to success." A community of innovators. As the fellowship program grew, so did its impact. Fellows from different backgrounds and regions began collaborating, sharing ideas and expertise. Maya watched with pride as they built a community of support and innovation, tackling problems ranging from renewable energy to accessible healthcare. One fellow developed a device that converted waste into biofuel, helping impoverished communities reduce reliance on expensive fuels. Another created a low-cost prosthetic limb using 3D printing technology. Each success story reinforced Maya's belief in the power of collective ingenuity. The program's achievements attracted global attention, earning Radiance Innovations partnerships with nonprofits, governments, and private companies, eager to support the next generation of problem solvers. A surprising reunion. One day, while preparing for a fellowship showcase event, Maya received a message that stopped her in her tracks. It was from her estranged stepmother, Clara. Clara's message was brief but heartfelt. "I've been following your journey. I'm so proud of you, Maya. I'd like to see you again, if you're willing." Maya's emotions were conflicted. Clara had abandoned her during one of the darkest times in her life, but this message carried a vulnerability that was hard to ignore. After days of reflection, Maya decided to meet her. They reunited in a small cafe, the atmosphere heavy with unspoken words. Clara looked older, her face lined with regret. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness," Clara began, her voice trembling. "I was scared, Maya. I didn't know how to handle everything after your father passed. Leaving you was the biggest mistake of my life." Maya listened, her own emotions a whirlwind. Finally, she said, "I've spent so long wondering why you left. But I also learned that holding on to anger doesn't help anyone. I forgive you, Clara, and I hope you find peace too." The reunion, though emotional, brought closure for Maya, allowing her to move forward with a lighter heart. A global impact. As Radiance Innovations celebrated its 10th anniversary, Maya reflected on everything the company had achieved. The solar chargers had reached millions of people across the globe, bringing light to homes, schools, and hospitals. The fellowship program had supported over 500 young inventors, many of whom had gone on to create their own companies and initiatives. At the anniversary gala, Maya took the stage to deliver a speech. The audience, filled with industry leaders, activists, and fellows, fell silent as she began. "A decade ago, I was just a girl with a notebook and a dream," she said. "Today, I stand here not because of my own strength, but because of the kindness, mentorship, and support I received along the way. Radiance Innovations is proof that when we lift each other up, there's no limit to what we can achieve." She paused, her voice thick with emotion. "But our work isn't done. There are still countless people out there with ideas waiting to be heard, problems waiting to be solved, and lives waiting to be changed. Let's keep building together." The room erupted in applause, a standing ovation for the woman who had turned her darkest moments into a light for others. A legacy of light. Maya's journey became a story told around the world, inspiring books, documentaries, and even a feature film. But she remained humble, always emphasizing the people and communities that made her success possible. In her downtime, she continued to mentor young inventors, often telling them, "The world doesn't need perfection. It needs passion, resilience, and heart. Your ideas matter, no matter where you come from or what you've been through." Years later, as Maya retired from her role as CEO, she passed the torch to a former fellow, Preya, who had grown into a visionary leader in her own right. Maya spent her retirement traveling, speaking, and writing, but she always returned to her roots. She visited shelters, schools, and rural villages, reminding herself of why she started this journey in the first place. A final reflection. On the anniversary of her father's passing, Maya stood at the park bench where she had spent so many nights sketching in her notebook. The city had changed, and so had she, but one thing remained constant: her belief in the power of human potential. As the sun set, casting a golden glow across the skyline, she whispered, "Thank you, Dad, for believing in me when no one else did. I hope I've made you proud." The camera pans out, showing Maya walking away from the bench, her silhouette illuminated by the warm light of the setting sun.